Hey everyone, welcome back to Launch Codes Football. My name is Chris,
And I'm Chelsea.
and today we are on episode 57. It has been a minute, but we've got
It
some
has.
content. We've got the NFL draft coming, free agency, boring, right? Nothing ever happens in free agency,
Wah
right?
wah. Unless you're a Panthers fan, apparently.
Not if you're a Green Bay fan, though. It's been eventful, unfortunately, so rip.
Or a Jets fan.
But by the way, not being serious, things do happen in free agency, but it's just funny meme is all. Okay.
Hey, but we're back. Chris, he had to go decide to move up the
Yes.
East Coast
Hmm.
and not do podcast episodes. Boo. But
My bad.
no, we are back. He has been busy, but I know that he has some passion about this topic that we are going to be talking about today. So, Chris, why don't you go ahead and get us into it?
Okay. So let's go ahead and get it out of the way. Everyone knows it. Everyone's heard about it. The Panthers are traded up with the Chicago Bears to get the number one overall pick. It's really making that crazy game where the Texans won at the very end, off like it's really making this whole thing insane because I think if the Texans lose that game, right? I don't think they'd give up the number one pick. They need a quarterback, and I think whoever doesn't go first goes to straight to the Texans between Young and Stroud. That's the two main topics, and that's what we're going to get into today's. Who are the Panthers going to go with? I think we can tell that according to Panthers social media, what they're posting, all the content is about the quarterbacks they've been interviewing. Look at the owner who he's going to have dinner with. All of the coaches, they're having so many YouTube videos and interviews, so they are definitely picking a quarterback. The social media team's leaning towards it. The GMs are always meeting with all the QBs, and the coaches are just always talking about the QBs. There is no way they're not taking a quarterback. I think that's just out in the open. And you don't give away everything, including DJ Moore, to not pick a quarterback, right? You've
I agree. I think it's inevitable.
So let's get that one out of the way. That they're definitely picking a quarterback based on all of those things alone. It's between Young and Stroud, right? Now that I,
Some would argue it's
uh,
between Stroud and Richardson, but that's just what I've been seeing.
you know, here's the thing that puzzles me with Richardson. It's not his talent. It's not any of that. It's why did you trade up to get him? Because I
Because
think,
he looks like Cam Newton. Come on, Chris.
look, hey, I'm repping the shirt today too, which I think is hilarious.
Hey, did you
Anyways,
plan that? You
not
planned that,
really,
didn't
but it
you?
kind of did happen that way. But here's the thing though. Like I get it. I'm not saying Richardson will be bad. This is not a take saying he's going to be a bust. My take is you didn't have to trade up for him because I really don't think other teams are going to pick Richardson unless he just starts going up like in his stock, similar to how Zach Wilson went from like 7 to 2. So I guess it does happen. But to me, as of right now, I feel like teams aren't really that high on Anthony Richardson. And so I'm kind of like, do you really need to go? If you wanted Richardson, you didn't need to trade for the number one pick to get him, I guess. You could have gave up less if you wanted to trade up or not traded at all, honestly. So
Well,
I don't
what
know.
pick were you guys at before this trade? Weren't you at like 9, right?
Yes. So yeah.
So at 9, Richardson would not have been there.
You don't think so?
So if Rick, no. So if Richardson was the guy that they wanted at this point, with how much hype there is around him, no, Richardson would not have been there at 9. So I think you guys would have had to trade up regardless to get him. I don't think that you would have needed to trade up to first necessarily, like you were saying, but I do think you would have had to trade into the top 5, though.
Well, okay, but look who's ahead, right? Okay. So originally it was the Bears. They weren't taking a quarterback. The Texans, they were going to. The Cardinals debatably would not take a
They're
quarterback.
not going to.
No. The Colts, I guess you guys will probably. I mean, that's a big probable, right? I I would hope so at this point.
Yes, we're
Um,
definitely taking a quarterback.
okay. And then we've got, we've got the Seahawks. They're definitely not taking one. They just signed Geno to a bunch of money.
They
I
could, though. I don't think that they will. But if they want to groom someone before Gino gets too old, I mean, it's not impossible. I am like you. I'm of the opinion that they won't just because they signed Gino to a big contract. But I don't think so much the threat is the people that are in the top five, more so the threat of other teams trading into the top five to take someone like Richardson.
I guess I could see the Cardinals being willing to put down their pick because I think they like Kyler Murray. I mean, they just signed him to big money. They're not going to, I don't think they're going to give up on him. And Kyler Murray's good enough. You don't give up on him right now. I just don't think so. Um, but I mean, you've also got teams like you've got the Lions. I don't
Who
think the
could?
Lions.
I don't think
It's
they will, but it's possible.
it's possible, but again, it's like, do you really think they will? Goff was on fire at the end of the year, and so maybe they could make a run with him. And their offense certainly wasn't a problem for the beginning of the year. It was the defense. So the Raiders, yeah, they're taking a quarterback. The Falcons, yeah,
They've said
probably.
that they're going to roll
But
with Desmond Ritter this year, and the Raiders did just sign Garoppolo.
well, yeah,
But if
that's true.
anyone,
Yeah,
if
I mean,
anyone thinks that Garoppolo is going to stick with the Raiders for more than 2 to 3 years, I mean,
mhm.
I'm of the opinion that he just isn't. I mean, I
Okay.
think it's pretty obvious at this point that he's a bridge quarterback. So it wouldn't surprise me if they pulled the trigger on someone like Levis, where they are currently. But time will tell, I guess.
Here's the thing. Okay, you are taking a little bit of a risk staying at 9, right? Because you've got the Falcons and the Raiders ahead. But again, with Desmond Ritter being taken to the Falcons, are they really going to pick a
You would
quarterback?
think
Are they
not.
giving up already on their guy they just picked? I don't think so. Um, so there's a solid shot you didn't need to trade for Richardson here. I mean, I guess they really wanted to guarantee that they get whoever they get. So to me, you trade for number 1 to get Stroud or Young. That's what you're trying to do. But
I will say there is still a bit of a threat with staying at 9, though, theoretically, if you guys were still there, because teams like the Jets or the Titans could very easily trade up with someone and get above you and
but
take
the
who you
Jets are
want.
trying to get Rodgers.
Yeah, but the Jets don't have Rodgers. That's the problem. If they can't work out whatever that pick problem that they have with the Packers is, they might not land him. And we all know they're not rolling with Zach Wilson. So
Yeah, they've
if
given up
they
on him.
don't land Rodgers, I mean, what are they going to do? Trade for Lamar? I mean, the probability of that is slim. So, I
Yeah,
mean, if they
because
don't get him, they basically have no quarterback.
yeah, they don't really have a backup option right now.
No, because Mike
Rodgers
White
is their
left, right?
guy. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I really think that the Jets are a whole nother thing. I don't really think it's them. I think they're doing what they're trying to get Rodgers. It's 100% confirmed that. I mean, everybody's confirmed it, but Green Bay is kind of being very stickler about it. And honestly, I mean, I'd love to see what those phone calls are right now. Because, like, what in the
Me
world
too.
are the Jets offering that the Packers just hate? Or maybe it's because the Packers feel like they have every bit of leverage in this trade. But honestly, I don't know if they do. Because Aaron Rodgers, if it comes season time, if the season starts and he's not on another team, he may just quit on you and you get nothing. Or he may just retire, be like, I'm done. I'm not playing. You didn't listen to me. And Aaron Rodgers would definitely do that. I mean, he's he's I mean, if you just listen to him talk on the Pat McAfee show, right? He just sounds like he wants to retire. Like, and he almost did. He literally almost did. So I mean, I think the Jets, it is possible they would trade into the top 10. But is the draft their deadline for Rodgers is the question. Like,
That's a good question. I don't know if anyone knows the answer to that right now.
because if the Jets trade to go into the top 10, I think at that point you can assume that they're done talking with Green Bay, especially obviously if they pick a QB. Unless Rodgers has on his list, you have to trade into the top 10 and get this guy. Which I
That
don't
would be a
think he does.
very Aaron Rodgers thing to request, even though I don't think he would actually do that.
Exactly. That would be a story that would come out though. You are right. Um
Aaron Rodgers requests trade up to 1 to take blank, 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 blank. Insert name here.
But yeah, and I think the Ravens, they're too tough with Lamar. I mean, I think, or I don't know if they're too tough, but I think they're going to be tough to. It's going to be a tough case to sell. Hey, I want to get Lamar Jackson to come to the same conference. I feel like the Ravens want to trade Lamar to the NFC. Why would you trade him to the AFC? You don't want that, you know? So it's possible. This draft is so interesting, right? I mean, I feel like last year's, I mean, there was some things that happened, but this one, it really is telling of a lot of teams' futures or what they're gonna do. Because you're right. If the Jets do make a call and say we're trading to get into the top 10, that's sealing the deal on Rodgers. They're saying to the Packers, we're done. We're not doing this. But
Yeah,
I think for the Panthers themselves though, and who they pick, it matters, right? I mean,
for
number one picks, do they normally work out? It's like 50-50. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But the Panthers got lucky with their QB at number one. Colts did too. I mean, they've had two good number one quarterbacks. So I mean, I'm talking to a Colts fan who's had extreme luck with the number one quarterback
sure.
picked. Got
That
him.
was funny.
Thank you.
Got him.
But I don't know. I think that they'll probably go Stroud, but I would not be surprised if Young, he does worry me with like how small he is. Like I think he worries everyone with that. And I'm not gonna sit here and be like he dominated in Alabama either. I don't think he dominated. I think he was very good, but he didn't like run the table with everybody. And it's not like Alabama has a shortage of talent. But also Patrick Mahomes didn't run the table at Texas Tech. So there you go.
No, I mean, that's fair. I think that honestly, I'm of the opinion that it's between Stroud and Richardson. I don't think the
Really.
Panthers have interest in Young personally. I mean, I know that there are like some people internally who really like him, but I mean, the vast majority of the talk is coming about Stroud and Richardson. I would be very surprised if they took Young. But here's the thing about Young. If Young had Stroud's size, would we be worried about him?
Probably not.
Okay. So, really, of all of the quarterbacks in this draft, Young is the best one. The only thing that's holding him back is his size. If he had the size of Stroud, it would be a no question number one overall pick. Because if he was 6'2, 6'3, 6'4, like Stroud is, like it wouldn't even be a question because he's the most NFL ready of all of them. And that's saying something because Stroud is extremely good. So you know that when when Young is, being hyped up to be what he is, like that like if he had the size, it would be unanimous. Like it wouldn't be a question, in my opinion. The only reason that it is because he's small. And sometimes it works out. Look at Russell Wilson's prime, right?
Exactly.
Sometimes it doesn't work out. Look at Kyler Murray the past few years. So it's really just kind of a coin flip and to see what kind of team you can get on. I am of the opinion that the Panthers traded up to take Stroud because I think that outside of size, that's the one thing I think, maybe a couple other things. I think that Young is the best overall, but I think Stroud's size evens the table. And I think Stroud has a little bit more explosiveness than Young does. And I think that that's going to kind of level the playing field when it comes to size and running ability and things like that. So I foresee the Panthers going ahead and taking Stroud, but I must say, as an anguished Colts fan who was very upset that the Panthers traded up to 1 instead of the Colts, there is a small part of me that is holding out hope that the Panthers are being delusional and see Cam Newton in Anthony Richardson and traded up to land the most athletic and dynamic quarterback in years. I mean, do I think that will actually happen? No. But if it did, I'd probably fall out of my chair. I'm not going to lie.
I do believe there's a shot it happens. I don't think, and again, just pay attention to who they talk to, what they're doing. I don't think they have any interest in Will Levis, by the way.
Let's hope not.
I swear he's gonna end up being the best one. Like that's what's gonna happen, right? Everyone's trash talking him. See, look, Chelsea's shaking her head right now, like no.
Dude,
But
did you see his stat line at Kentucky? His whole career,
I
his
mean,
stat line. It's not like, I'm sure he's a great guy. Love to meet him. Like, dude, you're going to the NFL. Like, that's crazy.
in the
Like,
top 10
seriously,
probably.
congrats. Like, you deserve it. But in comparison to everyone else, and by everyone else, I mean the other big three, his stat line just pales in comparison. I mean, Stroud had 1 year, what, like 60 touchdowns? 60 touchdowns in 2 years, something like that. I mean, I don't even know if Levis has thrown for 30 touchdowns 1 year in college.
Look,
I mean,
here's what I'll say. Kind of just going back to all of this. Stroud is the pick that no matter what happens, you do not get fired for.
that's
That's
true.
just that's just a matter of fact. I think no matter, yeah, like because years down the line, are people really going to be mad that you picked him? Like, years
Probably
ago
not based on his collegiate stats. Probably not.
when Jamarcus Russell was picked by the Raiders, did anyone say blame the Raiders for picking him? No one ever says that, right? You notice you never hear why did the Raiders take him or anything like that. Because it wasn't some extreme dumb idea. He was the overall consensus. Like the thought was he is the best player in this draft. He's going because he was dominant at LSU. But now, obviously we don't see him that way, but no one blames the GM for it. It was just what was going to happen. Trevor Lawrence, has been, no matter what happens with him in the future with Jacksonville, you had to pick him. I mean, no GM was going to get fired for picking Trevor Lawrence. He was the undisputed number one. There was no one even close. Whenever there were mock drafts, nobody ever had him not going one. Nobody realistically had him not going at number one. I mean, everyone's like, wow, shocking. Jacksonville took him. So I, that's what I think. I think that honestly, if you're Scott Fitterer for the Panthers, you're like, well, if I picked Stroud, no matter what, the owner can't blame me for that. So that's just my opinion with that. But I don't know. What do you think of that, Chelsea? Do you think that's true?
No, I mean, I think that's fair. I think that if they take Young and he ends up being too small to be good, I think you can definitely pin blame on him, on Fitterer for doing that. And if you take Richardson, which is a big boom or a big bust pick, right? I mean, he didn't play that much in college, to be honest, and he had a very weak surrounding cast at Florida. But the dude has talent, raw talent. And it's not to say that he does not have the potentiality to be very good one day. Now, will it take a little bit longer than someone like Young or Stroud? Yes, most likely. I feel like most people have come to this conclusion already. But he has the tools to be able to be very, very good. But he also has the ability to be very, very bad. So if Fitterer runs the table and takes Richardson and Richardson busts, like Fitterer's job is gone. Like you only get the first overall pick so many times. Like you cannot afford to screw it up. If I was Scott Fitterer, I wouldn't overthink it. I would just take Stroud and roll with it. And on the off chance he doesn't work out, it is what it is. He was like the number one by most people.
Yeah.
Like, what are you going to do? You can't control really if someone busts in most instances. Sometimes people just don't make it. And that's just the reality of the game, as sad as that is. But no, I'm of the same opinion. I think you don't overthink it. You take Stroud, you plug him into that offense, and you see what he can do. That's just, I don't feel like it's that difficult for the Panthers. But I feel like the Panthers could overcomplicate it by looking too much into Richardson and drawing parallels between him and Cam Newton, who's the golden child of the Carolina Panthers and has been basically since they were founded. Once they took him, it was Cam Newton or bust. Like, he's been the golden child. Even now that he's off the Panthers, like they still love him, as I know you do and my husband does, and a bunch of other people who have been Panthers fans for years. I mean, he did amazing, amazing things with Carolina. And if there is going to be any team in the top 5 that would do it, it would be Carolina, just because he looks just like Cam Newton.
Look, Honestly, this may be my mock draft in my head, but to be honest, I could see the Colts getting. They're probably. I feel like they're gonna get Richardson. I feel like that's
Yeah.
most likely what will happen here. Like,
I mean, at this point, that's probably the best solution and outcome that we could hope for. I would 10 times out of 10 rather have him raw over Levis.
watch the Cardinals now take him. They threatened Kyler Murray. They said, "We know we just signed you, but be ready."
I
That would
just
be
I
that would be
I don't
actual
know,
insanity.
man.
That would make no sense.
No, but I mean, the Panthers did what they did to draft their franchise guy. And if you are not 100% sold on drafting a franchise guy, I feel like you don't trade up to one. So, since they did trade up to one, they probably are sold on someone, and the more likely than not, it's probably Stroud. And it's not to say that Stroud will be going into an offense with no pieces. Like, he's going into an offense with pieces that they picked up in free agency. This is the best free agency I have seen the Panthers have literally since I was born. Like, I don't think I've ever seen it be better than this year.
Here's the
They just
thing.
kept going and going and going. And Panthers fans were like, this is crazy. Is this what it's like to be an actual team?
Is this what it's like to have cap and not be paying Sam Darnold a bunch of money, even though he hadn't played a game, but we gave him 20 million guaranteed?
Yeah, that was smart.
See,
No, but I mean, there's a lot of things that are honestly swinging in a very positive way if you're a Carolina Panther fan. You have the first overall pick. You have more draft capital as well outside of that. You went big in free agency. You hired a new coach. So there's a lot of good that's happening in Carolina right now, but a lot of that is going to hinge on what they do with the first overall pick and if it works out. Because in 5 years, if you take Stroud and it doesn't work out, people are going to look back and go, we did all of this in free agency and hopes were so high and then they died. And,
look,
I hope that doesn't happen, but.
Here's the thing. Most number one picks go to a team that is just dead in the water. This team actually has pieces. They have a good offensive line. They've went out and got receivers. Even though they lost DJ Moore, they picked up Adam Thielen, DJ Chark, and they have Terrence Marshall Jr., who at once they actually let him play, once the new coaching staff came in, they let Marshall play, and he was very good.
And that's not to say that they can't still draft someone as well. Like, it's very possible that they draft someone in the same class as Stroud.
Mm-hmm. So here's the thing. What you're seeing right now is with the Panthers. I think the team has wanted to do this at least last year. I think they wanted to try. Look, they were making moves. Matt Rule always talked about 7-year plan, but then he would make really odd moves to look like we want to win. But I really think what a lot of that was Scott Fitterer wants to try and win, the GM currently for the Panthers. Matt Rule wanted his own way. I don't really know what he wanted. The problem was, he wanted to kind of, I think, be the hero in some way, take Sam Darnold and turn his whole career around, be like, look what I did. I brought him to this situation. Now he's so great. And then he kept getting all these Temple guys like Robbie Anderson, PJ Walker, and a bunch of others that it wasn't necessarily bad, but it was like, why are there so many? It wasn't just them two. There were more, but why are all these people from one school that he happened to coach at all coming here? And why are we signing all of them? And why is it we're making moves to try and win? But then we're doing other things like not, really like passing up on Justin Fields. JC Horn is a very good corner. Do not get me wrong. He is a very good corner when healthy, but it was like, you are banking your whole career on Sam Darnold, who hadn't had a good year at that point and still hasn't had a good year. So I really think Scott Fitterer wants to make these moves. And I think you got to give David Tepper one thing. He has went all in on hiring NFL experience. He was enamored by Matt Rule. In fact, he called him a CEO the other day, not too long ago, how he was convinced. And so you got to give Tepper one thing. He is going all NFL experience. He is not hiring any college experience at all, which I think is it's just funny to me how he's swung the other way.
No, I mean, after seeing how much of a failed experiment it was with Matt Rule, can you really blame him?
Uh-huh.
Because I can't. The number one thing that you want your number one overall picked quarterback to go into is years and years and years of coaches who have years and years and years of professional experience. Like, you can't really ask for anything else with a rookie. But regardless, it'll be interesting to see what the Panthers do. I think they'll be smart and take Stroud, but I mean, there's always a chance that something absolutely asinine happens.
The
So
Bears
we'll
trade
just have
back
to wait
up.
and see. Oh my
They
gosh.
trade back up.
Yeah, that would be crazy.
They
So
pull the
we'll
Mitch
just have to
Trubisky.
see. We'll have to see what happens. I mean, the Panthers, it really shouldn't be that hard, but we'll see.
You're right. But I think that's pretty much it for today. So Chelsea, you want to lead us out of here?
Of course. So thanks for listening, guys. Tune back in next week for more content. In the meantime, follow us on Twitter at LaunchCodesFB and on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube at LaunchCodesFootball. I'm Chelsea.
And I'm Chris.
And we will see you next week.
See ya.
Later.